Hello, I'm Steve, also known as T-Break Knitter on social media. In this tutorial I want to talk about how I use crochet to reinforce the steeks in my knitting. I'll be talking about reinforcing the steek with an even number of stitches and talking about reinforcing a steek with an odd number of stitches. I'll start off by talking about reinforcing a steek with an even number of stitches. I use steeks like this particularly when I'll be changing colours in the middle of the steek, so where the steek is at the beginning of the round. By using the even number of steeks I can make sure that I catch both the old and the new colour yarns at the steek so that they don't become unravelled. So here's how I reinforce an even number of stitches in a steek. Here's the swatch that I'm going to be using for my steek. As you can see, in the centre here I've got two rows or two columns of the same colour, and that's the convention I've used to mark the centre of my steek. The steek is 8 stitches wide, and here are the extra edge stitches that would be used to pick up a button band or any other knitting that needed to be picking up. You'll see here that I've started off the swatch with corrugated rib, but the steek itself is knit in stocking stitch even in that section, which not only makes it easier to see the steek and to reinforce it, but it also means that after the steek is cut, that fabric will lay flatter than it would do if it had a texture itself. The purpose of the steek is to hold the yarns in places near the cut so that any stresses and strains won't cause it to unravel. For a traditional Shetland wool or other sticky wools, that steek will soon felt itself after use, and some would argue that it's not necessary to reinforce steeks, but I always do. As you can see here, the steek has two colours going across it in the knitting, so there are going to be two cut ends that we have to secure. And if you've got an even number of stitches, you want to tie on the right hand side here this left hand leg to the right hand leg of the column of the adjacent colour. That will firmly attach those two stitches to each other and those ends to each other. And similarly on the other side, you go in on the left hand edge of the central stitch to the right hand edge of the stitch next to it. I'm going to use a crochet technique for fastening those two steps together. Some people who are confident with a sewing machine will actually use a sewing machine to zigzag and to sew those two columns together to tie those columns nicely so that the yarn doesn't pull out, or if you prefer you could hand stitch those two columns together. So I'm going to show you the crochet technique. The first thing I want to do is to create a slip knot so that the crochet chain can be started. So I wrap the yarn around my thumb, put it onto my finger and put that working yarn through the loop and pull it tight. So I've now got a loop there. It's easier to work so you're working across your item, and I'll be working from right to left because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed you might prefer to work in the other direction. The first thing I want to do is to make sure I catch the bind-on edges. So I can put the hook through both those stitches, wrap the yarn around it and bring it through. You'll notice that I'm using a thinner yarn than the yarn I used to knit the swatch. This avoids adding bulk to the steek. Having pulled it through, then pull it through and you can make a loop. So that's the cast on edge caught. I now want to catch that stitch to that stitch as I go across. So we start off and the first two are in the same colour. So I push it under that leg, the leg that's closest to me, and up under the leg that's furthest from me. Wrap the yarn around the hook, pull it through, we pull that through and another loop and pull that through. So we've now trapped that yarn there. See if I can give you a closer look at that. So you can see there the yarn is trapped. So we now go on to the next stitch. Now change the yarn to the other hand because I've now got an established loop. So I go under the far leg of the stitch that's closest to me and through and up under the stitch that's further away from me, that first leg of the stitch. Pull it through and then catch again and pull it through again. Make sure that everything is bound tightly. I'll show you that step by step on the next stitch. Here's the second stitch away from the steek. You go under the far leg of that, keep going under and then up through the closest stitch of the next loop. Hook the yarn with a crochet hook, pull it through both stitches and then pull it through the loop that's already on the needle. As you can see, you've still got those stitches free, so you now pull that loop through there, make another loop, pull it through, and you've now trapped those stitches. So you then keep going like that all the way up the steek. And at the top here, just tucked under the cast off stitch, here's the final pair of stitches. Down, up, catch the yarn and pull it through that loop, catch it again and pull it through that final loop. We've now reached the cast off edge, so now I want to catch those loops as well. So put it through both of those loops. Catch the yarn, pull it through the loop on the hook, catch the yarn and pull it through that loop, and you can see it's now caught those stitches. So you can now snip the yarn off, and then continue pulling it through that loop as you would for knitting, and you've now trapped that edge with a crochet chain. Now I need to work down the other side, so I want to join that column of stitches to that column of stitches. So I start off again making a slip knot, putting it on the hook. This time, these are the two cast on stitches I want to catch. So, well, these are cast off, bind off stitches. So again, catch a loop, pull it through and through that stitch, make another loop and pull it through, and we've now caught those stitches. Push it through, down and up the far one. There's the yarn over the other side. Catch the yarn, pull it through the loop already on the hook, and then loop it again and pull that through the hook. And we work our way down again. And here I am, down at the last stitch again. And now I just need to tap the cast on edge. So it's this loop and this loop, making sure of course I use the right thread, pull that through, and make sure I've caught them. I can now cut that thread and pull it through. So there's my steek. It's now reinforced with a line of crochet either side of the centre, and you can see the centre stitch, which is where it's going to be cut. So that's how I reinforce a steek with an even number of stitches. If I'm using a steek with an odd number of stitches, the reinforcement is basically the same, but you do it in a slightly different place, so that instead of having 2 stitches in the middle, you only have 1 stitch along the middle. This gives you shorter ends, but it does mean that if you change colour there, it's more difficult to make sure that you've caught both the colours on each side of the steek. So this is how I reinforce a steek with an odd number of stitches. I have here a swatch that's got a steek with an odd number of stitches. Here are the 2 edge stitch columns, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steek stitches, and here is the central line of the steek, and the cut will be made along the centre of those stitches. The swatch itself has got a few rows of corrugated rib followed by stocking stitch in colour work, but you'll see that the steek stitches themselves are stockinette all the way up. This will help it lie flat, and it also makes it easier to identify the steek. So I'll be starting off trying to join these 2 columns together, so the left hand leg of the central stitch to the right hand leg of the stitch to the left of it, and of course I need to also catch the cast on and bind off edges. And on the other side I want to join the right hand leg of the central stitch to the left hand leg of the column to the right of it, and again the bind off and cast off edges. So I start by making a slip knot, where the bit that you can pull to adjust it is going to be the working yarn, and put that on the crochet hook. I want to start off, here's that central stitch. I want to start off by making sure that I've caught the cast on properly. So put it through that stitch, and if it was a two-colour cast on, you'd need to make sure that you also caught the yarn that's being floated across the bottom, and you can then catch the working yarn, pull it through, and pull it through the loop that's already on the crochet hook, and then you catch the yarn again and pull it through. What's that's done is it's tied itself around that stitch to catch it. We now start working our way up, so that down through the nearer loop, up through the central stitch, catch the yarn, pull it through the loop, pull it through the stitches and then through the loop on the hook, catch the yarn again and pull it through the stitch that's on the hook. I'll show you again. This time we've got the colours there to help us. Down through the stitch closest to us, up through that central stitch, catch the yarn, pull it back through the stitches. I'm not very good at crochet. And pull it back through that stitch that's already, the loop that's already on the hook, catch the yarn again and pull it through the stitch that's on the hook. Now I'll try and show you that a bit closer for the next stitch. So I'm going to be using down through this stitch, up through the central stitch, catch the yarn and pull it through, then pull it through that loop, catch the yarn again and pull it through the loop on the needle, and again, and now here's the last two stitches. Put it through the stitches, pull it through that loop, and loop and pull it through again. And now we need to catch that cast off stitch. So push it through there, and I'm actually catching the brown stitch underneath. Pull it through the loop and through the loop again, and you can pull that through. So we've now caught that with a chain of crochet stitches. In practice I'd probably use a thinner yarn than this. This time I want to join this leg of the central stitch to that leg of this stitch, the edge of it. So another piece of yarn, another slip knot, put it on the crochet hook. This time I've turned, again working from right to left. So now I want to catch that. Now if I catch both those stitches. I'll catch that piece of yarn as well. Doesn't matter if you catch too much. And you pull that tight and pull that through the loop. Another loop. Catch the yarn again and pull it through that loop. And we're now ready to start. So down through the near, up through the far stitch, catch the yarn, pull it through, back through the stitches, through the loop, catch the yarn again and through that loop, down through the near, up through the far stitch, catch the yarn and pull it back, pull that through the loop that's already on the needle or the hook, catch the yarn again and pull it through the loop on the hook, and work your way down the column of stitches. So here we are down at the bottom one again, and I want to catch that leg to that leg. A little bit more difficult because they're the same colour. Pull it through the loop, and the final, pull it through that, catch, and pull through the loop. That leaves us with the cast on edge. So again, we want to make sure that we catch that stitch down at the bottom there, and making sure that if there are two colours, we catch on that cast on, you catch both colours. Loop through, pull it through, pull it through the loop, and the final, catch it and pull it through the loop. So now we have reinforced that steek. We have the 2 lines of crochet, 1 down each side, and in the middle here you can see where we're going to cut. So that's the reinforcement of a steek with an odd number of stitches. So that's how I reinforce a steek with an odd number of stitches. In this tutorial, I've talked about how I use a crochet method to reinforce steeks. I've talked about reinforcing steeks with an even number of stitches that are particularly useful if you change the colours in the middle of the steek. And I talked about how I would reinforce a steek with an odd number of stitches that makes the steeks slightly narrower. So I hope you found this useful. Until the next time, happy knitting!